Today on the Topping Show, Cisco tells employees to confront misgendering and they won't tolerate deadnaming. Tucker Carlson notes 1 in 5 mail ballots were fraudulent in the 2020 election. DC mayor ignores the family who lost 3 of their kids to the city's violence throughout the years. Kamala Harris, Secret Service agent that snapped, has a track record of ineptitudes. Honda to invest $11 billion in EV plant in Canada. Walgreens has a snack that trends and explodes in sales thanks to TikTok. And Williams Sonoma gets a record fine of $3.2 million for advertising made in the USA, when in fact their products were made overseas. All of that and much more on The Topping Show. Thank you everyone for taking the time to tune in today. Today's episode of The Topping Show is proudly sponsored by Topping Technologies. Topping Technologies is an IT value-added reseller and services company with a special proficiency in IT security. Heck, I see their founder at least twice a day. I say he's quite handsome and brilliant. He's me, you see, that's the joke. If you're an IT leader or a business owner, you can reach out to the team at sales@toppingtechnologies.com. Also, trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so if you could click that button and share it with your friends, I would greatly appreciate it. Now going over to the business part of the podcast, you have Honda to invest $11 billion into an EV plant in Canada, or some people call it Canada. Now, this was brought to us thanks to Reuters, and they have a picture of their communist dictator, Justin Trudeau, where, again, if you have a meme making fun of elected officials over there, you are fined and sometimes jailed. Now, this is an article by Reuters by Maki Shiraki. I may be butchering that, as I often do. Apologies if he is happening to tune in at this very moment. And they note that, scrolling down a little bit here, they're going to invest $11 billion into the EV and production battery manufacturing in the existing facilities in Ontario. It will be the Japanese automotive company's largest investment into Canada. Now, they critique them for being a little bit late to the EV transition, which, well, yeah, they shouldn't, because Honda makes reliable vehicles, and they've been an engine manufacturer pretty much bar none in terms of reliability for decades. Now, they note that the operations are targeted to start by 2028 with an annual production capacity to be in a maximum of 240,000 EVs and 36 gigawatt hours for batteries. Even though, EV sales have slowed dramatically in the United States, with hybrids being one of the fastest growing categories that consumers are starting to buy into, perhaps just because they can't do math for long-term ROI, but partially digress. They note that they still think it's going to be great for them long-term and very sustainable. They note that the EVs and battery plants will be constructed adjacent to existing four-wheeled vehicle and engine plants, and total workforce will increase to about 1,000 people from the 4,200 now. Now, of course, in terms of the significance, North America accounts for about approximately 30% of Honda's global four-wheeled sales, and they're currently overhauling facilities in the U.S. plant in Ohio with investment of $700 million and constructing a battery plant in a joint venture with LG Energy Solution for $4.4 billion. So, many investments being made into EVs. Is it going to be sustainable long term? Is it going to be actually good for the consumers? When I think of Honda, I know it's not, they have some fun cars, but it's not a sports cars company. You're going there for reliability. You're going there because they'll last 1,000,000 miles. Same with Toyota. Because those that'll hit 1,000,000 miles are the ones that have a good old internal combustion engine. Truly told, I love my little Honda Civic Si. It only comes with a stick shift, as all vehicles should be by default. Also known as having 3 pedals. The most fun you'll ever have driving, bar none. And, EV is just the exact opposite of everything that Honda is known for in terms of, reliability and, having the ability to work on your own vehicle or have mom and pop shop down the road fix your vehicle. When EVs, you're locked in very similar to a smartphone, and inherently with the current technology, will never be even a fraction as reliable long term. But then again, you also have evil governments forcing you to buy products you don't want, with de facto bans in some countries. So it'll be interesting. Maybe, I know there's definitely a lot of incentive mechanisms, sometimes the stick, sometimes the carrot, for these automotive companies to make EVs. I guess if it's only EVs on the market, we don't have a choice to buy them or not. And certainly wouldn't be out of the realm for possibilities, especially for Canada. But let me know in the comments, do you think this will backfire for Honda? Do you think it'll actually make a positive ROI for EVs? And as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Other interesting business news, you have Walgreens trending for appealable candy thanks to TikTok, which again show that no matter how much people want to ban TikTok, and yes, it's technically the law did pass, so they're going to have to be divest or banned, or people will have to learn about VPNs. It's one of the reasons why businesses love TikTok, because I don't want to say people with low IQ, but people who are easily influenced by those little technological apps will go and just buy whatever crap. Whether it's the Stanley mug, which again flew off the shelves when everyone wanted to buy a pink Stanley mug because it was trending on TikTok and had a Starbucks text on there as well. The ladies literally were paying $50 to $200 to $300 for a pink Stanley mug, thanks to, in part, because of TikTok. Yeah. My faith in humanity dwindles every single day. But nevertheless, going to specific use case with Walgreens now, they note that Walgreens has a, quote, cult peelable candy courtesy of the TikTok craze. This is by Parja Kavans over at CNN Business. It looks like they're talking about a gummy mango artificially flavored peelable candy. They know it's like tiny, squishy, chewy. It's shaped like a cute baby mango, and Gen Zers are going crazy over it. They can't even keep it in stock. Now they note that the gummy candy is much needed win. It arrived last fall in about 2,500 of its 8,700 U.S. stores and quickly sold because, of course, TikTok. Online, Walgreens imposed a limit of one bag per customer because they have so little inventory relative to the demand. It looks like the product itself is $1.99. And in January, a video explaining the uniqueness by TikTok, or Trin Does Things, got a whopping 8.9 million views. Which, yeah, that's a good way to go viral, as the youth might say. And yeah, it's fascinating. More and more businesses are going to continue to leverage in this. What is that, AT&T Fiber? Random BS pop-up ad. But nevertheless, just goes to show you the importance of TikTok and why so many businesses like it. In this case, I mean, it wasn't even an official advertisement. It's just like a byproduct. So the business is especially happy because it seems and it feels more organic to the end user. So they say the ban is coming, but this is definitely a win that, you know, Walgreens needs. Their stock has been going down the past 5 years pretty bad. I'm pulled up right now. I'm actually curious. Walgreens has been let's see here. Walgreens stock. Let's see here. About $17.70 a share. The past 5 years, it's gone down 67%. Past year's down 50%. Year to date is down 33.58%. So, yeah, they're definitely a struggling chain. It'll be interesting to see if they're at all able to turn things around. I mean, truth be told, they need a lot more things than just gummies to be trending. So, it'll also be interesting to see what does it look like in terms of Walgreens' success. When was the last time I actually went to Walgreens? Now that I think about it. I've certainly driven past them throughout the years, but maybe college? Yeah, let me know. That'd be another interesting thing. When was the last time I actually shopped at Walgreens? As always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Now going over to the Culture podcast, you have Cisco telling employees to confront misgendering and they won't tolerate deadnaming. And for those not in IT, Cisco is one of the most largest, powerful, influential companies on the planet in terms of technology. A majority of the internet goes through their network devices. So they're probably best known for data center infrastructure in terms of they have data centers, ginormous switches the size of, well, not Volkswagen, but perhaps a smart car. They also have everything from your switches, you have wireless, and granted their portfolio is so large, they also have everything from endpoint protection. They have a SIM solution thanks to the Splunk acquisition. They're one of the biggest tech companies, and they're usually in every business has a little bit of technology on average. They're that, and then they bought out Meraki, which is a brilliant wireless technology company that they incorporated into their portfolio. They're huge, so to say. Granted, not as big as Microsoft. No, really, well, very few are. Now, this is brought to it thanks to Libs of TikTok, and I'll have to ask the rep next time I talk to the Cisco rep. My tech company is a Cisco VAR, or value-added reseller and services company. So she says, Scoop, Cisco is instructing their employees to confront people who use wrong pronouns and misgender. They also warn against using someone's dead name or calling groups of people ladies and gentlemen because it's disrespectful to live in reality. Imagine working there and being forced to give in to this delusion. And this didn't go as far as I thought. It got 364,000 views and 10,000 likes last week. And this is part, one of the employees was brave enough to actually take a screenshot of some of these trainings because, again, there's usually a big asterisk every time you take an internal training because, proprietary knowledge, technology, they don't want this getting out. Now, this is part of the, let me pull it up here. The first screenshot is part of their Building Skills for Conscious Culture assignment. It says sexual orientation and gender identity. It says, quote, be an upstander. If you hear someone use the wrong pronouns or make homophobic/transphobic comments, say something. Let them know that their word or actions are not appropriate. Being a upstander means standing up for LGBTQIA+ people regardless of whether they are in the room or not. Sounds a little narcissistic. Let's see here. Now the second picture, or screenshot rather, it's a nice big slide deck picture. And it says deadnaming and misgendering. It says, quote, even well-intentioned people can be unsure of how to address trans or gender fluid coworkers or make an occasional gaffe. But our names and pronouns are the foundation of our identity and they matter. Calling a trans person by their old name is called deadnaming, and using the wrong pronoun is misgendering. Both are disrespectful. They continue saying, quote, tips for creating an inclusive workforce. Quote, don't assume you know someone's gender just by looking at them. Unquote. Bullet point number 2. Include your pronouns as part of standard workplace introductions, work emails, etc. That way no one feels, singled out. Unquote. Third bullet point, quote, when addressing a room of people, steer away from gender terms like guys and gals, ladies and gentlemen, etc. These terms may make non-binary people feel uncomfortable and feel invisible. In addition, they can unintentionally reinforce gender bias for everyone. Unquote. So now we got to the point where we're saying ladies and gentlemen is not considered a pejorative thing to do, according to Cisco. Now, it would be fascinating to see if they enforce this with their partners. Now, granted, Cisco is one of the largest tech companies on the planet. They have hundreds of thousands of internal direct employees, but they also have millions of resellers, evaluated resellers, tech companies that do the services for them. Could this become part of a condition to do business with them? So very similar to kind of the business model of Nike, just to make it rudimentary speaking. Nike, you can buy direct, or you can buy through a Nike reseller like Foot Locker, Walmart, what have you. Cisco is very similar for business to business. Actually, in many cases, encourage someone else to take care of the transaction and actually take care of the client. That way, they can have millions of people selling on their behalf, and they don't have to pay them a base salary. They just make a margin or they make a profit on the things that they sell. So it's a mutually beneficial relationship. That's why it's such a very common practice in the tech industry and many industries. Now that I think about it. Now, of course, there's freedom of religion implications, there's freedom of speech implications. But in terms of anecdotally speaking, I've noticed a lot more people putting their signatures and pronouns when I'm working with a lot of these tech companies and they're sending emails back and forth to me. And I know some people, I won't call out a company name, but some of my friends have told me they're being forced to put pronouns in their signature, in their emails, in their company profiles, and on LinkedIn. How invasive is that? Your boss is forcing you to choose those little things and put them there. That doesn't feel fair. It doesn't feel as if they're pushing that onto them. How's that fair? I can't but think most people will be in common. Let's see, Doctor. Oh, I thought I was already subscribing. Okay, I follow her, but I'm a little ADHD. I saw the subscribe button. I thought I was already following this TikTok. I am, but if you click subscribe, you can pay money to it. But ADHD aside, let's go to the top comments. Paul Zazupa saying, quote, companies like Cisco are doing a great job of making clear why no one should want to work for them or invest in them. If a company is run in such a dumb way that they can promote gender ideology, then what other blatantly boneheaded business decisions are they making? Unquote, getting 841 likes. Now, that being said, in terms of the Cisco business perspective, and they have nearly a monopoly in networking. You could debate on who invented computer networking. You could also, I think many people would argue they perfected it. Although when I worked at a competitor, I would always say, the cliche is no one ever gets fired for buying Cisco. But when I worked at Aruba Networks, a competitor of theirs, I would say, yes, no one ever got fired for buying Cisco, but no one ever got promoted. Think differently. Buy something that is faster, cheaper, and better ROI. But I'll partially digress. I mean, there's so many businesses that depend on Cisco, not nearly to the point of Microsoft, but it is the standard for networking infrastructure. and they have a bolstered community of people who have Cisco technical certifications, in which, again, very similar to Texas Instruments, building out the infrastructure for school programs and having the little textbooks all standardized on having teachers using the Texas Instruments calculator. Very similar, Cisco did the same thing with Cisco certifications. And that's the same thing for networking. So that being said, I don't see a business actually boycotting Cisco. When you make a change to your business's infrastructure, it's going to cost you hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in some of these cases. That's just the fiscal cost to just remove equipment and get new equipment. It doesn't take into account the change to actually, or the fiscal cost to actually train the employees, and then the cost to the end user, the disruption of workforce. Because again, there's always going to be maybe a curveball, there's some hiccups. So it's not going to work precisely day one if you replace it to something, in some cases. So in terms of a boycott from Cisco, I don't think that's going to be an issue. And then when Paul's talking about investing in them, again, they're a huge security company, they're a huge networking company, and there's not a lot of competition. The only real competition from a networking perspective would be HPE Aruba Networks, which recently is buying out Juniper Networks, and even they are, I think great technology, but from a market segment perspective, they only have hardly a fraction of what Cisco has. I think Cisco has 47% of the market in terms of networking revenue for sales every year. It's nearly 50%. Now, scrolling down to other comments, you have Lightstrom Mom saying, quote, so Cisco has joined the SWA gender staccato regime. SWA gender staccato. I think I'm reading that right. I just can't maybe pronounce things. It says, first it was Pride Day, then it was Pride Week, now it is Pride Month. First they demanded tolerance, then they demanded acceptance, now they demand participation. That infographic with the trans pride flag that they combined for them, so it looks like the Nazi flag, got 652 likes. Patriot Pointman says, quote, tired of Cisco and the BS. It says, raise your hand if you're tired of this crapping. 343 likes. Let's see. Mel says, how demoralizing it must be to work for a company that forces you to participate in compelled speech and improper grammar. HR encouraged struggle sessions by your coworkers. Really, Cisco? Employees should sue if they encountered HR harassment, getting 336 likes. I'll scroll back up, double check here. Wondering if they actually, because I'm looking at the content, I don't see any of those struggle sessions yet. Now, that being said, other companies have done that in the past, so I wouldn't be too surprised. I just wanted to check the original post. Planet of Memes gets an A+ because they did respond in meme form. Usually it's like a 50-50 shot, and a lot of the times they just respond in text only, which is a little disappointing because, again, the name is Planet of Memes. And he says, I won't participate, and the meme is, use whatever made-up pronoun you want, but don't expect me to affirm that nonsense. And that got 632 likes. Let's see. Patriot Pointman says, where Cisco can go with that BS, and says, please return the woke here. That's the Simpsons mental institution picture. And that got 239 likes. Let's see. Do you know what? It says, be careful what you wish for. It says, do you want me to act my wage? All right, then. That's it. 276 likes. Gunther Eagleman says, quote, Cisco went commie? Got it. Getting 696 likes. Another thing in terms of like consumer pushback from this perspective, there's not really going to be much of a boycott because, again, Cisco is predominantly known for business technologies. You might see it at your workplace in terms of you looking on your laptop and maybe using Cisco Umbrella for your endpoint pejoratively, well, it's not really antivirus anymore, it's evolved, but nevertheless, you might see it at work, but your average person really isn't buying Cisco. And that's going to be one of the big differences as people try to boycott this technology. I don't see it happening because, again, with Bud Light, that boycott was successful because individual people will go to the store and they buy Bud Light. And then businesses like mine, where we buy beer for some of our get-togethers and our work events, well, they had a little bit of impact, but that's barely anything from a business perspective. Look at technology. The average person will never buy Cisco stuff. They used to have some low-end routers and wireless technologies that they would sell at Walmart, but that's not even a fraction of a percentage of what they sell on a global level. All the revenue is coming from business technologies and services. Now, let's see. Bruce Ballow says, quote, people who use pronouns are not serious people. Use clown pronouns when talking to them. Yeah, they got 380 likes. Let's see here. Florida and one says, Cisco and all tech companies will toe the government super woke line, and it's probably something in the government contracts, just my guess. This is how the government instills behavior. Want money, then invoke these policies. And quoting 67 likes, which Cisco for sure is also extremely popular in SLED or state local government accounts like schools and government entities. And I know there's certain federal practices and policies you have to entail, but I don't think there's one for pronouns yet. Let me know in the comments if you've heard anything though. Scrolling down really quick. See if there's any more good ones. These are getting between 0 and 40 likes. General TM says, I first thought you wrote Crisco, getting 47 likes, which is a cliche April 1st joke for all the Cisco sales reps. If you want to make your Cisco routers faster, just spray some Crisco on it. And someone always Photoshop a Cisco logo onto the can of Crisco from the store, but partially digress. A little tech joke for the folks who work in IT. Let's see here. Pismo Cisco really likes foreign workers, getting 48 likes, which, I mean, yes, but that's also not really unique to Cisco. That's pretty much every tech company. If you look at the visas issued in the United States, I mean, one of the biggest categories is technology. Let's see. So, yeah. Let's see. Family Guy meme is from Stock Wokeism. It says, it's a little prescription bottle saying they, them, and it's Lois looking really tired. And it says, ugly people with no personality or skills, getting 58 likes. So, interesting news about Cisco. I mean, I'm not too surprised. A lot of big tech companies have similar policies about what they consider inclusiveness. Although, I would also argue this doesn't make people of religious faith feel very welcome at work, because a lot of people of religious faith think that you're born the way God entailed you. You're born a certain way. You're born perfect in that regard. And they don't think you should be changing, and they don't think you should be changing your genders. And there's a lot of people, libertarians, who are, and people are just constitutionalists saying, well, compelled speech isn't legal. You have freedom of speech for a reason. So I think this will especially play out in the courts as you start to see some lawsuits filed, and I suspect this year there's going to be a lot of them. But yeah, in terms of like a consumer pushback, I don't think there's going to be any boycott at all. There might be a couple of businesses who are extremely, constitutionalist, freedom of speech, they don't like compelled speech, and they might kick out the technology, maybe. But again, depending on the size of that business, the bigger the business is, the more disruptive technology changes are, usually the longer they take on average. And again, Cisco also has a very diverse portfolio with doing so many things. So let me know in the comments, again, this might be a very niche topic for me and my friends in IT, but have you ever heard of Cisco from a consumer perspective? Are you going to try to boycott their technologies, or will you, if you see it at your work, will you tell your boss, hey, I don't want to use this? I mean, if enough employees said they refused to use Cisco wireless, or some Cisco technology at the workplace, that might increase the odds of the business actually making a change. But let me know. I'd be fascinated, as always, what you have to say. Other interesting cultural news, you have Tucker Carlson noting that apparently 1 in 5 mail-in ballots were fraudulent in the 2020 election, allegedly, I should say. Now, this was thanks to Tucker's ex-Twitter profile. And I was going to say, we'll play the video really quick here in a minute, but he says in text before, quote, about 1 in 5 mail-in ballots in the last election was fraudulent, handing Biden the presidency. We know this because people who committed the fraud admitted to it in a new poll. Thankfully, his voice is infinitely better than mine, so without too much further ado, go ahead and crank up this volume on the X Twitter app as well as mine over here. And like all good gentlemen always knows, he, of course, did suit up, as we always should.
It's now apparently a criminal offense, a felony in this country, to suggest the 2020 presidential campaign was not on the level. That crime appears to form the basis of one of Donald Trump's pending indictments. He's an election denier. But actually, it's worth denying the legitimacy of that election because it was not fair. Critical information was withheld from voters through censorship, and yes, by the government. That is a fact. It's also a fact that Mark Zuckerberg spent $400 million to control voting in various places around the country and affect the outcome. That's not legitimate. It was also conducted in many places through electronic voting machines, and no country should ever use electronic voting machines because fundamentally they cannot be trusted. Why would you trust it? But then there's the question of outright cheating, voter fraud. Was there voter fraud? Well, we know there was some, but was it widespread? That is a hard allegation to prove, though of course many people believe there was widespread fraud. Well, now it turns out we know for a fact that there was, and in fact it can be proven with a poll. Just ask people, did you personally commit voter fraud? Well, that has just been done. And the answer is a huge percentage of people asked in the poll admitted, yes, I committed voter fraud. It's remarkable. Justin Haskins is a senior fellow at the Heartland Institute. He joins us now with details. Justin, thanks so much for coming on. If you could just start by giving us the results, the shocking results of this poll, and we'll go from there.
Sure. So it was pretty straightforward. We asked people a series of questions. The first of which is, or one of the first questions was, did you vote in the 2020 election, and did you vote with an absentee ballot? And if they answered yes to both of those questions, then we asked a bunch of questions related to voter fraud. We didn't tell them that we were asking, did you commit voter fraud? We just asked them about various behaviors. So for example, we asked people, did you vote in a state where you're no longer a legal resident? That's a pretty straightforward question. If you're not a permanent resident of a state, you can't vote there. 17% of people, nearly 1 in 5, said yes, they did do that. We asked people, did you fill out a ballot for someone else on their behalf? That's also illegal. You're not allowed to fill out someone else's ballot. 21% of people said yes to that question. We asked if people forged the signature of a friend or family member on their behalf, with or without their permission. We actually put that in the poll question, and 17% of people said yes to that. So, all told, it's at least, and I say at least, 1 in 5 mail-in ballots involved some kind of fraudulent activity. But we didn't just stop there. We also asked everyone, whether they voted via mail-in ballot or not, so in-person voting as well, do you know anyone who personally, in your personal life, a friend, a family member, acquaintance, someone from work, has anyone ever admitted to you that they did one of these kinds of forms of voter fraud? And 10% and 11%, we asked 2 different questions on that, said yes, people admitted to me that they committed voter fraud.
Thanks a lot for watching us on X. There is a lot more to see, and you can find it on tuckercarlson.com.
Granted, my first question was, well, great, give us the data for the sample size for the poll, and also geographic range, and a lot of variables to be fascinating to dive into. But this went pretty viral, got 2.1 million views and 45,000 likes, which is quite a few to say the least, and a friendly reminder to click that like button if you have 1/1000th of a second. One of the first comments comes from Paul Zazupa. Ooh, we see our favorite leftist in the bottom as well. So we'll get some different perspectives here. Paul chimes in saying, quote, just think of how only a short time ago Twitter would have wrongly banned you for calling out how mail-in voting is fraudulent and leads to elections being stolen. Now the most popular journalist on earth can openly report on it. X is saving America by exposing all the truth, getting 1.4 thousand likes. Which, yeah, and it is also fascinating to see just Google or Brave search the list of like the top, pretty much every country that have banned mail-in ballots. A lot of them have, and the number one reason they cite is because of the high propensity of risk for mail-in fraud. Again, I don't have any evidence on me. I don't have any evidence to actually show you was there enough actual fraud to actually really overturn the 2020 election or really make a difference? That's always the debate. And to this date, we haven't seen the volume needed to actually say definitively. I mean, we've seen a lot of anecdotal, a couple of one-offs. You see the ballots being stuffed. You see the windows getting covered up. But I mean, at the end of the day, the real question is you need the volume of data to show that it would have actually made a big difference. Because it's been fraud since the dawn of time. Now, looks like one of our favorite leftists is also comments down here. Wow, not as many likes. He only got 9 likes. Now, Luke Zaleski, who, again, a little background on Luke Zaleski, I follow him because I like more opinions and echo chambers can get a little bit boring. And Luke is, his pride, is one of his life achievements that he pins to the top of his profile on X Twitter, is talking about how he doesn't think young boys should play football. He also has a profile picture where he's wearing a V-neck. Pathetic. As we all know, true men of class always suit up. I mean, who has a profile picture of a V-neck? That's like a very casual date. Once you've known the girl for like 15 years, then I think it'd be appropriate perhaps to go on a date, maybe on like a home date. Like, you're not out in public, heaven forbid. You always want to suit up then. Like, if you have like a stay-at-home date kind of night, then I could see it being appropriate wearing a V-neck. But I partially digress. Now, Luke Zaleski says, quote, you're living through the largest, longest continuing propaganda campaign and hostile political takeover attempt in the history of humanity, guys. And if you think it's unrelated to Elon being a right-wing, this is terrible grammar, I'll say it anyway, a right-wing wingnut who thinks elections and vaccines are fake, you're not paying attention. Unquote. Granted, mostly mentally vacuous, but it did get 9 likes. People appreciate his perspective sometimes. And maybe that is grammatically correct, but does that sound just awkward? That phrase, right wing wing nut? I understand what he's trying to say, but I mean, that just sounds awkward as hell. Now, going to the comments from Luke, I'm wondering if he got ratioed. Let's see here. One of the first ones comes from Stephen M.Y. saying, quote, name Obama's and Biden's economic policies that benefit America and Americans. Ask a liberal, stump a liberal. It's a good question to ask, but no one liked it. He didn't get a single like for that responses. Truth be told, none of these did, actually. Ooh, wait a minute. There's a disclaimer saying show additional replies, including those that may contain offensive content. Well, of course, click the bonus button and we see... I mean, it's not exactly polite cocktail conversations, but Steve simply said you're as dumb as they come. I mean, it's not nice to say, but I don't think it's overly offensive. They should censor that or pseudo-censor it. But nevertheless, back to the main comment section. You have Gunther Eagleman saying, quote, Democrats have to cheat to win elections, getting 1.5 thousand likes. Democrat Media TM says, quote, how Democrats literally think, and it's a quote, well, it's an alleged quote, just as liberals, quote, if we could just jail Trump, get rid of MAGA in the Electoral College, stack the Supreme Court, ban voter ID, and censor free speech, we could save democracy, getting 753 likes. Which is hilarious how people on the left and the right, every election, they always complain about the Electoral College and saying they need to change it, but with the pendulum of politics, usually it does go back and forth between Republicans in power and Democrats in power. Although, I would also skeptically or pessimistically say, just more uniparty garbage. But nevertheless, scrolling down, you got Western Lensman saying, quote, mass mail-in voting is an essential pillar for Democrats' plan for entrenched single-party rule. It makes election fraud like what it is described here and nearly impossible to prove. Getting 592 likes. Marjorie Taylor Greene press release parody account says, quote, we need to ban mail-in ballots. Democrats use it to cheat in every election. Unquote, getting 1.4 thousand likes. Patriot 911 says the government really is working against its own people. It says U.S. Capitol Code of Conduct. It has a Palestinian protester that is allowed. You have the Democrat, I forget what name was, that morally depraved Democrat politician who was in office filming adult content. That's allowed. You also have, what was that name? Another Democrat who pulled a fire alarm to prevent a vote. That was allowed. Then you have a picture of a MAGA hat gentleman praying and says, Our Father who art in heaven, and that's considered terrorism. That got 850 likes, which is quite sad when you think about it, because people were jailed just for praying. Or in some cases, they were jailed just for walking around the building, escorted by police. Of course, there are a couple about to, not to swear, but a couple of morally, mentally vacuous people who got violent. Obviously, they should have been, and they were, I was going to say they should have been prosecuted. They were prosecuted. Now, going back to other comments, you have Big Fish saying, quote, I was at TCF in Detroit and 35% of all the ballots were not in the official voter roll. They kicked me out citing pandemic when I raised objections. People do not believe me when I mention this. It's hard to believe, getting 600 likes. Let's see here. This is how you save elections, according to the Democrat Media TM. It says, every election will be stolen until we fix the problem. Paper ballots, no machines ID, signature verification, vote in person, proof of life, sign/ID absentee, and mail in. Got 705 likes. Let's see. A couple videos of people on the street talking about Trump being better than Biden. Let's see. Righteous Crusader says, quote, everyone knows Biden cheated. Obama won 893 Democrat counties, while Biden only won 477 counties, yet somehow he got 8 million more votes. Biden also lost 19 of 20 bellwether counties that miraculously still won. It was a stolen election, and we're all suffering the consequences, end quote, getting 664 likes. Let's see, a couple memes. What was this? Aaron K says they don't even care who knows anymore. They get away with anything they want to. And there's a picture of Biden and Kamala, and the text says, quote, a 78-year-old two-timer loser campaigns from his basement, picks the most unpopular vice president in modern history, receives the most votes of any candidate in history at 4 a.m. Confirmed in the middle of the night, an empty inauguration, 20,000 troops to protect him, and no one is allowed to question any part of it. Unquote, getting 266 likes. Though, fact check, old souls and old people do get up pretty early. I am usually up by about 4 a.m. every day, and who knows, maybe that's a good time to vote. I mean, I usually use it to work out and read, but nevertheless. Scrolling down. Dave Benner, nemesis of neocons, says, quote, if you want to get voter ID and paper ballots, this is the only marketing campaign that will work. It says, don't, it's a little picture that says, don't let Trump cheat, demand voter IDs and paper ballots. And it's a bunch of multicultural people all smiling, holding IDs. They got 750 likes. Carolina says, quote, there's no doubt that there's fraud and they're hiding anymore, but this is a picture of Trump. It says, Trump will be the first president to win 3 presidential elections and serve 2 presidential terms, getting 423 likes. Now, fun fact of the day, well, I think this has already been taught ad nauseum for some folks throughout the years, but if Trump does win, he'll be the second president in history to serve 2 non-consecutive terms, the only other one being Grover Cleveland, and I forget the year, that eludes me at the moment, but that would be a statistical outlier if Trump is to win. Or, let's see here. Vince Langman says, quote, imagine believing this senile old bastard got 81 million illegal votes. Got 573 likes. Now, that being said, there's a couple of people who really love Biden and what he's done. Realistically, I think a lot of people just overwhelmingly vote ballot, or they vote party line. It's like, a lot of my friends who are Democrats, it doesn't matter who's actually on the ballot, they'll just vote for the party. And there are a couple of people in the Republican Party who do the same thing. As long as there's an R by that name, they'll vote for him. And for Democrats, as long as there's a D by that name, they'll vote for him. And truth be told, I'm not really sure how much Biden is doing these days. I mean, I think in terms of like the daily activity and these policies and what's going on, I think that's kind of his team more these days, don't you? But as always, let me know in the comments. It'd be fascinating to hear what you have to say. Now, going over to the political part podcast, you have a D.C. mayor ignoring a family who lost 3 kids to the city's violence. Now, this is someone who already sounds like a supervillain. I don't want to say you get what you vote for, but yeah, this is her name is Bowser. Really? And kind of looks like the character too from Super Mario Brothers. Kidding, I know it's Mario Brothers. Now, this was also brought to us thanks to EndWokeness on X Twitter. And EndWokeness says, quote, D.C. Mayor Mariel Bowser is asked if she would like to talk to John Edwards, a resident who lost 3 kids to violence in the city. Her response, no. I was going to say, she gets an F- for her fashion, too. I don't know what you call that. A sweater that's, like, cream-colored? At least do, like, a dual colored. Do something. She has a pin on her lapel. Of course, it's not the American flag. But, nevertheless, let's hear... I usually say their voice is infinitely better than mine. In this case, perhaps not so much, but I'll let you be the judge of that.
I don't talk about my discussions with families.
But and respectfully, I'm not asking you to divulge in any conversations, but do you plan to meet them at all?
No.
Can I ask why?
I've answered your question. Any other questions?
John Evans tells us he is disappointed in that answer. Now, he has heard from someone with the Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement. Evans's 14-year-old son, Avion, was killed on April 4th, nearly 8 years after his older son was stabbed at the Deanwood Metro Station in 2016. The Evans family went through another loss last May when another son was shot on M Street.
I don't talk about my discussions with families.
Yeah. Not great news, and even bad politicking. I don't know what she would say, though. Now, that did get 1.4 million views and 11,000 likes. And, yeah, these cities are... I can't fathom people who want to live in the cities. I know some people love living downtown, and they say it's so cool because of the convenience and the bars and the nightclubs and the... all the shindigs or other people talk about. But, personally, if I won the lottery, I'd have my own ranch and my own farm. To me, that's the dream, but that's just me. Now, some of the top comments comes from Paul Zupa, who, again, staying busy. It's usually the top comment. Also a followed person, so that's why they're there. Paul says, quote, when asked why she says, quote, I've answered your question, what a horrible human. Shame on Bowser. She's heartless. She's turned D.C. into a war zone. She doesn't care. Bowser needs to be legally removed from office immediately. And she doesn't care about anyone anymore, unquote. That got 1.2 thousand likes. I can't but think. I always say you gotta look for the silver lining in the situation, and of course, this is obviously a heartbreaking, tragic event, but part of me always wants to try and do something that makes, the Chandler Bing methodology of coping, use comedy. How priceless would it be if someone were primary Bowser, the person's name would have to be Mario. Like an Italian guy should go to D.C., run for mayor, and defeat Bowser in the electoral process. I mean, the campaign. I mean, the president had a field day. I mean, the campaign ads that you can make. Granted, Nintendo, you'd have to do a lot of parodies so that Nintendo doesn't sue you into oblivion. But I mean, maybe I'll have to do a sketch on that. That just writes itself. But nevertheless, going to the actual comments. You have Libercat Media TM saying, quote, "The Democratic Party hates America," getting 307 likes. Advertisement. Salty Goat says, quote, "When it's her policies that cause the deaths, there's no way she'll look them in the eye and take responsibility. Easier to do a soundbite interview and lie," getting 619 likes. Renata Michelle Oxstein says she doesn't care how many lives are lost due to her failed policies, getting 191 likes. Planet of Memes gets an A+ because they responded in meme form, which, I mean, they're on a roll. Usually they respond in text only. Now, he says, "Deep blue cities are accessible." Looks like it's the Lion King. And Simba goes, "What about that shadowy place?" And Mufasta says, "That is a Democrat-run city. You must never go there." I got 199 likes. Which, yeah, most of them are extremely dangerous. Kind of like Chicago being the poster child of many of the policies that I believe are, well, the antithesis of good and morality and the Constitution, but also just seems to make the city worse and worse and unsafe and bad for business. But they'll be good next year, like the Chicago Bears. That's a joke, because no, they won't. Now, again, that did get 199 likes. Pismo says, quote, "Can't face it herself because she knows she's partially to blame. How horribly tragic for the father. Prayers go out to him," getting 230 likes. Let's see. Oh, it's Beetlejuice. Oh, no, wait. No. That's Lori Lightfoot. Paintless April? Sunshine says, "I wish someone with a lot of reach would realize that the federal agents are actually disavowing the U.S. Constitution and pledging allegiance to the New World Order. I hope this video of former Chicago mayor admitting that what is happening. Watch." Yeah, it's 19 seconds. We'll see what she has to say.
And you pick the people that run those agencies.
Oh, why can't
And the deputies that are pledging allegiance to the New World Order and good governance. And then I think you have the Inspector General do some spot audits to make sure that there is real compliance.
I don't know if that's an AI. I mean, she looks real. I mean, she also looks like a comic book villain in general, so it'd be easy to fake it. Now, going down, yeah, let's see here. Yeah, same meme we've seen earlier today. Let's see. Oh, it's another popular one. Gymonomics says they don't care about their peasants, getting 92 likes. Washington Ghost says they never want to see how bad things are, getting 72 likes. Another advertisement for Ted Cruz. I got a million views. But only 5,900 likes. All right. Let's see. Sarah Smith says, quote, "What a disgrace of a human, heartless," getting 96 likes. Glenda also chimes in saying, "Of course not, liberals don't take accountability," getting 75 likes. Now the real question is, will people actually move out of DC or move somewhere else? Let's see. I was gonna say, I don't know if there's an appropriate way to tell you this individual's name on X Twitter. We'll say male substance producing individual. That's their profile name. And it says this was her doing FYI. And it was when they used taxpayer dollars to write Black Lives Matter in giant yellow paint, block format, text, very lazy, not good marketing. And it took up the whole streets. So it's like 1 or 3 city blocks worth in terms of lengths. And yeah, I never understood putting like political messages on streets where cars drive and people litter and it's inevitably going to get dirty. I mean, that's just, again, mentally vacuous, bad marketing. I got 5 likes. And of course, it's a waste of taxpayer dollars, which I find even more, just as if not more egregious. Let's see, roll more. Ernie Grofsky says, quote, "She doesn't have time for peasants. She should vote and shut up," getting 8 likes. So definitely not good PR for this particular mayor, Bowser. But that being said, I mean, DC's been voting the same way for as long as I can know and remember. So will this actually hurt her in the polls? Kind of like Chicago. I actually don't think it'll be. She might, maybe she'll lose 1 point in the polls when she comes up for re-election, if she is up for re-election. Again, if you live in DC, even if you just get a couple votes, I don't know what the cost is to like actually file and run for office. But just for the novelty, I really hope someone by the name of Mario or Luigi, someone just primaries her, just so they can have a debate. If they can make it that far, you have a debate of Mario versus Bowser. And maybe you have, I don't know anyone in the real world whose name is Peach, but again, that would be fascinating as well. But I mean, unfortunately, it's a heartbreaking story. Family continues to lose lives, in part, I would say, of course, there's a cultural component, but also because the policies that the city is rolling out is clearly aren't effective. So what would you do if you live in DC? Would you move heaven and earth to get out? Would you try to get in the office and change? As always, I would be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Other interesting political news, you have Kamala Harris, a Secret Service agent who broke down and attacked another agent, has a track record of being, what's a nice word of saying crazy and inept. Now, this comes to us thanks to Colin Rugg over at X Twitter. And Colin reported, quote, report, Secret Service agent assigned to Kamala Harris allegedly threw menstrual pads at another agent before getting into a brawl with colleagues at Joint Base Andrews. Maybe DEI in the Secret Service isn't a good idea. Agent Michelle Herzeg started acting erratically and hid behind a curtain while mumbling to herself, according to a new report. She then threw menstrual pads at an agent and said he was going to need them before telling the other agents they're all going to burn in hell and needed to listen to God. After receiving her assignment, Herzig allegedly shoved and tackled and punched a special agent, according to Real Clear Politics. Ironically, Herzig previously filed a $1 million gender discrimination lawsuit against the city of Dallas in 2016 when she worked as a police officer. She accused her colleagues of sexually harassing her. Her case was later dismissed. Now, that's a creepy smile if you're just tuning in to the show. A smile equally as awkward as perhaps Kamala Harris, or Ron DeSantis, Dylan Mulvaney, or myself. All horrifying, I know. Vote in the comments to let me know what you think is the worst. Now, that went pretty well. Got 2.3 million views and 14,000 likes. Which, yeah, continuing to lower the bar doesn't seem to be working. And again, throwing pads at people, hopefully they weren't used. But, yeah, seems like the science dystopian books are becoming more and more reality. One of the first comments comes from one bad dude saying, quote, at what point do they realize hiring these people might not be a good idea? Got 2.2 thousand likes. Colin responded saying, quote, can someone please explain to me how a woman that ends up with a job protecting some of the most powerful people in the world does doing your due diligence exist anymore, getting 2.9 thousand likes? Yeah, that's a good point. Paul Zupa also said Michelle Herzog's 15 minutes of fame will be over. Will forever be that she threw menstrual pads at other Secret Service agents. While embarrassing, it's nothing compared to the humiliating, awful job Kamala Harris has done as vice president. No wonder her approval is the worst in history. Unquote, getting 1,000 likes. Which, yeah, remember when Biden assigned the task of screening the border to Kamala Harris? Yeah, some of us remember that. Spoiler alert: I was gonna say she did a terrible job. I don't think she tried. Did she like take one Lego brick and try to throw it at the border and say that's a wall or something? Maybe. No, I think that would actually be too much effort for her to actually, that's a little bit of effort to throw something. I don't think she would do that much. Kathleen Winchell says, quote, this is insane. How is there any normal people that work in this administration getting 571 likes? I mean, what was it? The other person, was it the Secretary of Energy? Someone who had access to the launch codes. Also, is a gentleman who shaved his head, wore women's clothes, stole women's clothes multiple times from airports, which obviously is mentally more than vacuous. I mean, you're stealing people's clothes from airports? How do I consider is that? Imagine you get to a destination, and then you only have to wear that one thing you wore on the airplane. Your clothes are gone because this pervert stole them. Now, Junitha Broderick says, quote, I don't see any problem. Sounds appropriate for Kamala Harris's detail. Getting 2.7 thousand likes. Grumpy says, quote, the truth of the matter is, DEI stands for, it's a meme, it says diversity means fewer white people. Inclusion means exclusion of white people. Equity means stealing from white people. They got 449 likes. General TM says, quote, is anyone really surprised that Kamala Harris's Secret Service is off the wall? I would venture to guess that she had chosen her Secret Service agents based on DEI. They got 332 likes. We also have Pismo saying, quote, DEI is a Marxist smokescreen used to shroud ideological appointments under the guise of diversity of color, getting 183 likes. Vivek Parody account says, quote, I would have assumed that becoming a member of the Secret Service required passing a rigorous test known for their strict standards. I guess not in 2024. Got 250 likes. Wedgrave Press says, quote, DEI is terrible for everyone involved. Hire based on merit. Is that too much to ask for? I'm quoting 416 likes. The Texas one says, perfect representation of this administration. I'm quoting 608 likes. I also have a couple more here. You got George Alexampoulos says, diversity is our strength, getting 173 likes. Tommy Lawrence says, makes sense. Glad Kamala got her, getting 677 likes. Let's see here. Wokeville says, you would think that the Secret Service would do background checks on the people they hire. Then again, looking at who she's protecting, we all knew her background and she still got her job. Got 98 likes. But yeah, the Secret Service continues to look woefully inept or corrupt. I mean, remember, what was it, last year where they found cocaine in the White House and the Secret Service claimed that they had no idea where it came from? In the most guarded, protected building, arguably on the planet. And there's probably more cameras in one room in the White House than an entire Best Buy store. Which is probably 1990s reference. I don't even know they sell camcorders anymore. But, joking aside, I can't but think that means that the Secret Service is either corrupt or woefully inept. And I don't think, I mean, neither of those are good. So, I guess we're not too surprised to find, the more we find out about this person who kind of snapped on the job while working with Kamala Harris, that has a track record of being inept. And I mean, we see this across a lot of other areas in the industry. People just keep lowering the standards, and it's not great for the outcomes. Now, I guess the real question is, will this be a big topic for the new year, or rather this calendar year? And then, I mean, Kamala Harris is so unelectable. Her approval rating, I don't even know if it exists. It's so small and infinitesimally small. I mean, there's so many rumors about maybe Biden will, last minute they'll switch someone on the ballots. I mean, do you think she'd actually, if Biden were to pass away of natural causes, would Kamala run for president? I mean, she was so unpopular, she couldn't even win the primary in California when she was running for the Democrat primary years ago. So, but let me know in the comments. As always, I'd be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Now, going over to the business blunder of the day, you have Williams Sonoma gets a record fine at $3.2 million when they claim that things were made in the USA, but it turns out they were not. Now, this is brought to us thanks to the Associated Press. Specifically, it is thanks to the writer by name. Well, this is embarrassing. They don't put the name right up there. Yeah, that is a little. Really? Associated Press? Maybe it's written by AI? Or someone who has the personality of AI, then they just didn't want their name to be out there. But nevertheless, going to the actual article, they note Williams Sonoma must pay almost $3.2 million for violating the FTC's Made in the USA order. Now, they say that, quote, Williams Sonoma was charged with advertising multiple products as being made in the USA, when in fact they were manufactured in other countries, including China. Or, I mean, as we all think when we hear that word, as Trump would say, China. Probably not the best Trump impression, but let me know, was it the worst? Now, continuing the quote, they say, that violated a 2020 commission order that required the San Francisco-based company to be truthful about whether its products were in fact made in the USA. The FTC said last Friday that Williams Sonoma had agreed to the settlement, which includes $3.175 million civil penalty. That marks the largest ever civil penalty seen in a Made in the USA case, the commission noted. Williams Sonoma deception misled consumers and harmed honest American businesses, FTC Chair Lena Khan said. Today's record-setting civil penalty makes clear that firms committed to Made in the USA will not get a free pass. They also know that in addition to paying the penalty, the seller of cookware and home furnishings will be required to submit annual compliance reports. This settlement also imposes and reinforces a number of requirements about manufacturing claims the company made. Looks like they also know that in 2020, FTC sued Williams Sonoma on charges that the company falsely advertised several product lines as being made or almost made in the USA under its Gold Touch, Rejuvenation, Pottery Barn Teen, Pottery Barn Kids brands. The company then agreed to the FTC order required to stop such deceptive claims. definitely not good news for Williams Sonoma. And interestingly enough, I don't know if made in the USA is a really big seller for a lot of folks in the United States these days, which is, quite sad. I mean, truth be told, it's become prohibitively difficult to make stuff in the USA, partially because of terrible politicians and the EPA passing policies that make it exorbitantly expensive and difficult to manufacture stuff here, especially in comparison to other countries. And also the enormous artificially increased cost of labor, thanks to several regulations and minimum wage laws. I mean, it's really hard to make, they say. And also, the emotional rhetoric, many consumers, I don't think, really have a preference. I mean, you saw this with clothing companies. I mean, it used to be at one point, was it in the 80s, as recently as then, 90+% of all clothing sold in the USA was made in the USA. It was a huge majority of the market. And then a couple years later, it became lesser and less and less. Now it's about less than 10%. And the consumers never really boycotted the company. Because again, if every consumer refused to buy any imported products, the companies would change. But the consumers have been moving less and less away from that. And really, I mean, personally, I try to buy made in the USA when I can, and it makes a lot of things more expensive. I remember when I was buying t-shirts for my tech company to give away as marketing swag, the made in the USA t-shirt cost, what was it 29.5% more than made in China? It was a huge, bigger cost, and I justified it saying, I'd rather support, a fellow entrepreneur, fellow business, as well as the imprinting business that was also local. But the average consumer, it's not too big of a deal to them. So it's interesting that Williams Sonoma is, participating in these things, and at the end of the day, I don't think it increased their sales to the point to make it worth the risk. And it's especially morally vacuous to also have the false advertising, that being the biggest offender, of course. But they're false advertising for something that I don't think is the average consumer is actually, the needle isn't being moved too much in terms of your campaign and their buying the USA really making a difference for the company. But nevertheless, you're lying to consumers, which is obviously the worst, and the people who do buy the made in the USA are very dedicated to it. So there's a lesser volume of people who want it, but they are very passionate about it. So the fact that you betrayed their confidence, they're going to look twice before ever shopping at Williams Sonoma again, and they're probably not going to trust you. So for that reason, and as well as the fiscal ramifications, Williams Sonoma, that made in the USA farce, that made in the USA lies that they promulgated, and that $3.2 million fine, that is certainly the business blunder of the day. Thank you everyone for taking the time to tune in today. Again, we're trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so if you could click that button, I greatly appreciate it. Also, leaving a thumbs up, thumbs down, or comment, or sharing the video is a great way to give me some additional feedback, as well as help grow the channel. Lastly, don't forget to take the time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe, fight the good fight.